Could you please confirm if you can see my slides and if it's on full screen mode? I believe it is. So.
Yes, I can see. Yes.
All right, thank you. All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you guys for the thumbs up. I appreciate it. Tonight we're here to talk about weight loss, actually. However, we are talking about it in the context of the woman who may have struggled to lose weight because there is, or she suspects, either because she's been told or because she suspects that there might be some underlying issues with her hormones or her metabolism. And especially if you've been wondering, should I consider medically assisted weight loss? To put that in plain terms, I'm sure lots of us have heard about weight loss injections or weight loss tablets. I know on the market, there are a lot of weight loss teas and stuff that's being marketed, and maybe we'll touch on that in the FAQ section. But you're like, oh, do I need extra help outside of, the normal? Because losing weight has been such a struggle for me. If you've been in any one of those shoes, then we are here to, address a lot of concerns you have. So we'll talk about why weight can be difficult to manage. We'll talk about what works. We'll talk about the treatments that exist potentially for weight loss and the newer treatment like the GLP-1s, which we commonly call peptides. Some of us have heard about Mounjaro or Zepbound or, depending on the name, whether you're talking about the brand name, we'll talk about all of that tonight. And so if you have any questions, please write them down or put them in the chat and we'll take them at once at the end of the session. I would also like to say thank you to you, Sheyi. I also am part of the PCOS Concourse community. So my name is Kieva, but my full name, Dr. Kieva Krisamusa. I'm a medical doctor, but I'm also one of the founders at Fertitude. Fertitude is a platform for women's health in a nutshell. What we do is that we make it very easy for a woman from her phone to get the answers she needs when it comes to reproductive health. And so you can find out more about us. If you Google Fertitude, you'll see that. But I also have to shout out to the PCOS Concourse community. Shout out to you, Sheyi, for the amazing work that you're doing to support women like myself. So whilst I might be a doctor, some of you who may have met me from the previous session we did with the PCOS Concourse community would know that I also have a PCOS diagnosis. And I know I keep saying PCOS, even though it's been renamed to PMOS. So you just allow me, okay, because we're kind of like still making that transition to the new name. Okay. Moving on to my next slide. Sorry, guys. All right. So I just have this welcome slide here to again reiterate why we're here. So very quick, allow me to go through my notes, even though I already preempted this, insight into what we'll be covering tonight. We'll talk about, hormones, metabolism, and weight, the intersection, what's the connection between those things. But where I'm going to really dwell is 3 mindset shifts that we all need to have to rethink our approach to weight loss. When is lifestyle change? Lifestyle changes. Oh, I'm moving more. I'm going to the gym. I'm eating right. When is that not enough? And when should you be considering medication support, like GLPs, for instance? And then together we will do a quick self-assessment. And then I'm going to talk about calories by Fertitude. Calories is, a product that we have for women who are specifically exploring support to lose weight because they have underlying hormonal or metabolic issues. Now, I said I'm going to dwell more on talking about shifting our mindset around, this topic of weight loss. So the 3 mindset shifts that I'm going to talk about will center around, number 1, cause. Why? If there is a woman out there, if you are that woman who has struggled with losing weight, you lose, you gain it back. You will gain more than what you lost. And you've been on and off for the last 10 years, for the last 5 years. In fact, for me, I probably had a whole, probably 5 years stint. Or for as long as you can remember, since you were in uni, you've been on this, I want to lose weight. And it's just been hard. Harder than normal, harder than it should be. We'll talk about the mindset to, really address that struggle. What's the thing you should know? How should you start thinking about this struggle? Then secondly, we'll talk about your approach. So it's one thing to understand the cause. Why is this happening? But then we would also talk about what should you change. And then lastly, we'll talk about the outcome. So when you decide that you want to, change this back and forth you've been having, what should you be thinking about as the end goal, right? So those are the three mindset shifts to address. I'm getting right into it now. So I believe that this introduction has given, more people time to join us. Please, again, if you have any questions, put it in the chat or write it down and we'll take it together at the end of the session. So the first mindset shift, remember we said we're talking about the cause. You've been blaming yourself, perhaps, for this. It's been so hard to lose weight. Oh my gosh, it must be because I'm not disciplined, right? But the truth is that your biology may be working against you. And I believe you're here because you suspect that. In fact, we are here with the PCOS Concourse community. So we know that a lot of the women who are joining tonight have some form of diagnosis that points to a metabolic issue. Now, allow me to pause here to really talk about the name change with PCOS. And I'm sure you've heard Sheyi talk about this over and again. I know she recently put out a video as well. PCOS was renamed recently to PMOS. So we went from calling this polycystic ovarian syndrome, which suggests that, the cause of this issue is because you have cysts in your ovaries. To it now being renamed, because we needed to address a lot of misdiagnosis, to it now being renamed to polyendocrine metabolic ovarian syndrome. I mean, they still said to leave the ovaries there, but you guys, to be very honest, the real thing with PMOS is not necessarily the ovaries. It's that there is an issue with the endocrine system. The endocrine system is your hormonal system. Your hormones are those things that your body secretes, or allow me to say the brain, actually, various organs in the body. They send out these messengers that say, oh, she's eating, let's absorb the energy and let's use it. Should we store it as fat? Should we release it as energy, right? So the endocrine system is basically your hormonal system in quotes. I'm trying to keep this very simple. Now, this name change is kind of reminding us of something we've all done, but nobody validated, which is, it's not that I'm not disciplined. It's like my body is fighting against me. I'm doing everything I should do. I mean, I remember there was a time I was literally diligent with my weight loss journey. I was eating, I kept my meal plan. I was tracking diligently. I was having like 60 minutes to 90-minute walks every day. And I was like, you know what? I won't check the scale. After 30 days, I checked the scale and it had not moved. And I was so upset. I'm like, I'm doing everything. But apparently, my biology was working against me, right? And so the first mindset shift I need you to have is you need to stop blaming yourself. By the way, okay, if you are that person who you say you're counting your calories or you're in a calorie deficit but you're not really, you're not. This is not for you, okay? And I'm going to talk about that because the basics still matter. However, just to remind us that genetics, appetite regulation, insulin sensitivity, how well we sleep, because sometimes you may have a hormonal issue that is affecting your sleep. You're stressed, cortisol is high, right? Maybe you're on some other medication that is causing you to gain weight. You're on steroids, and now steroids cause you to gain, or your environment, Nigeria. I'm sorry, I'm just joking. Right? It could be any of these things. And so I would love you to go from just thinking, if I were disciplined enough, I would have loved to lost weight by now, to thinking, okay, maybe there is more than willpower at play here, right? Please allow me expand my side screen for support. Excuse me if I'm looking in the other directions because I have a bigger screen here that is not well positioned. All right, I think we get the point now, right? How many times you said, I know what to do. Why can't I just do it? Oh, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Why is it not working? Well, maybe your biology is working against you. Now, weight is more than calories, okay? When you're trying to lose weight and the algorithm starts sending you all these weight loss videos, you see people tell you about CIC, or calories in, calories out. They're like, if you actually adhere to, you expend all the energy that you take in, you should lose weight. However, what if your hormones or something with your biology is making it hard for you to even stick to your caloric deficit, right? How full you feel after eating, how much you naturally move, because maybe there's something up and you're just more fatigued than the ordinary person. It's just hard for you to maintain your caloric deficit. These are some of the things that can make this conversation of weight loss more than just calories, right? And I think I've overflogged this point, so I'm just going to move very quickly. Now, I put this as a very big slide because I need you guys to understand that calories still matter. When it comes to the basic of weight loss, it actually still boils down to calories in, calories out. However, like I said, when you ingest these calories, there are other things that come into play in terms of how your body is metabolizing food, or in terms of how easy it is for you to be disciplined. I don't know if you guys have heard about food noise, for instance. This is a very common term in the space of people who, explore medically assisted weight loss, where they're like, oh my gosh, I was on this medication and the food noise disappeared. They're like, I did not realize that there was a world where I could stop thinking about food. And for some of us with, certain conditions, all our lives, or for the last 10 years, last 15, 20 years, we've just become so used to always thinking about food that we think it's normal, right? So there is something with our biology that influences how easy it can be or how difficult it could be to maintain the caloric deficit that is very, very important to whether or not we're able to keep the weight off. And so that's just the first thing I want us to understand, all right? I need you to stop thinking, oh, why can't I just be more disciplined? Like, why can't I do it? The people doing it, do they have 10 heads? Oh, my friend, she eats like a lion and, we can't even see it. I need you to shift from that mindset to start asking, what could be making weight loss harder for my body, right? And if we go to this previous slide, look at the icons I have here. It could be any of these things. It could be your genetics. It could be your hormones. It could be maybe you're not moving enough, indeed, or maybe you're not doing the right type of activity. It could be your nutrition, right? It could be sleep. It could be stress. It could be maybe you're on some medication or you need some medication, right? It could be any of these things. And I think fundamentally, those are the pillars that influence topic of weight loss. I could literally close this here, but no, I'm going to elaborate some more. Just kidding. All right. Now, this is, everything I've been trying to say. Sometimes there is more happening underneath. And I know that we're delivering this to a community of women who are in the PCOS group. So PMOS, I've already explained what that is. I think in some of my other slides, I will explain, what insulin resistance really is for some of us who do not, or who have not heard about it before, or who do not really understand it. Now, the second mindset shift I'd like us to have is, now, I don't know. I wanted to take a quick break to ask if somebody remembers the first, but it's too early for a check-in. I'll address the three mindsets and then we do a check-in. The second mindset shift is stop looking for shortcuts, okay? When it comes to weight loss, the fundamentals still matter. You need to fix your nutrition. Nutrition is quality and quantity. So quality in that, balanced diets. They taught us the food groups in primary school, secondary school. You have to eat your protein, you have to eat your fat and oil, lipids, you have to eat your veggies. We also say these days we're like, oh, fiber, high fiber diet, high protein diet. We'll talk about the different types of diets that people may have tried in the past. However, the fundamentals still matter. Eat right in terms of the balance, a balanced diet, you're balancing the class of food, but also the quantity. And quantity boils down to how much food should I eat based on my current weight and how much weight I want to lose. Now, this session is not enough time for us to go into how to calculate what your caloric deficit should be. I hear people say they can ask ChatGPT, or you can Google something called TDEE, your total daily energy expenditure. Look, this is not the session for that. I'm going to talk about ways that we could work with you to calculate these things, to help you know how much you should be eating, to have the actual caloric amount you should eat per day. But you know what? Let me focus on my current slide. I said all of that to say that the fundamentals still matter in terms of nutrition and how to eat for weight loss. The fundamentals still matter in terms of movement. We say move on average 3 to 5 times per week for maybe 30 minutes or 20 minutes. But that differs per person. So again, depending on your weight, depending on what your metabolism is saying, and depending on what your goal is, that will determine how much movement or let's say how much calories you should burn. Allow me to take a pause here when I said calories in, calories out. Calories in, calories out is actually boils down to nutrition and movement. Nutrition is what you eat, right? Movement is the energy that you expend. And so if you take in, if I oversimplify this thing, I might commit blunders, but essentially you should burn more than what you eat if you're going to lose weight, in a nutshell. Sleep, it matters. Mindset, it matters, which is why I'm trying to address the mindset. Shortcuts will not help you lose weight. And so if you came here thinking, I saw something about talking about GLPs on this call, people have kind of touted GLPs as a magic pill. That's not the case, right? And I'm going to talk more about that in a second. So how many people here have tried keto diet? Yeah, I'm going to raise my hand. If you've tried keto diet, just type keto in the chat. If you want to pretend, it's fine. If you don't want to pretend, it's fine. I'll raise my hands for all the people, but I've tried the keto diet. I've done intermittent fasting before as well. I've done detoxes before as well. I'm actually guilty of all these things. I've been on supplements before. If you've tried all the things, fasting, water fast, dry fast, potato and broccoli fast, all the different types of diets, and you're like, oh, maybe this will finally work. I'm just here to let you know that yes, diets work. However, if you do not understand the basis of what you're doing, you're just going to be going from pillar to post, trying every Tom, Dick, and Harry, everything every Tom, Dick, and Harry is suggesting to you, and people will collect your money. Okay. So I kind of want us to just remember that there are better tools when it comes to weight loss. There's always like maybe a better way to think about things, but there's no magic tool. Whatever, if you find yourself in a situation where someone promises you a magic tool and you're like, oh, I lost 20 kg in a month. Like every single day I was losing like 3 kg. You're joking with your liver, you're joking with your kidneys, because it will come back to haunt you. There is no magic tool when it comes to weight loss, and I'm going to explain why. Okay, especially when it comes to medical treatment. So let's segue into this a little bit. I would ask how many of us have heard about medical treatments, but I feel like some of us will probably want to code, so I'll not ask questions that will open anybody's backside to the outside. But where does medical treatment fit when it comes to, the topic of weight loss? Now, I'm sure some of us have heard about semaglutide or tirzepatide. In case you don't know what that is, okay, semaglutide, you may have heard about Wegovy, or Ozempic. I think Ozempic is the more common name, which is the brand name. These are the scientific names in terms of what's inside the formulation, the pharmaceutical formulation, right? Tirzepatide, you've probably heard about Mounjaro. So tirzepatide is branded as Mounjaro or Zepbound, right? These are two common medications that are hot now. In fact, retatrutide is the newest one, not yet FDA approved. I do not recommend you touch that. Please, guys, let's be careful what we put into our bodies. If you've not heard of any of these names, praise be to God, it's okay. This is an educational session and you're hearing about it now. Now, we call these medications GLP-1 because in our bodies, there's something called the GLP-1 receptor. And it basically, see guys, I don't want to overwhelm us with too much of information, but it basically means that there is a sensor in your body that lets you know when you're eating, that it tells you, oh, you are full, stop eating. And for women who have PCOS like me, and maybe like you, there is something wrong with that pathway. And so when we're eating, it takes a while for us to realize that we're full. We've probably eaten twice as much or thrice as much as we should eat before we realize that we're full. Now think about it genuinely. I'm eating food like a normal person. I'm not yet full. So I need to eat more till I feel full. That's not a self-control issue, right? It's not. The issue is that your sensor is broken. It's similar to if you have a car and the sensor that should tell you, time to refuel, is still telling you like you have fuel. Of course, you're not going to refuel. And now you end up with your car breaking down and you're like, oh, what's wrong? But I have fuel. It's a similar thing, right? So there's a broken sensor. And so what these medications do is that they make that sensor more sensitive to the point where now you start to feel full as a normal person would. Because believe it or not, even though you are familiar with your current relationship with food, it's currently broken. You just don't know because you've lived with yourself for this long with this broken system. Now, where these medications get interesting is that they can become so sensitive to an extreme where you don't even feel like eating at all. And that's why you see the extremes of people who are on some of this medication and they are not eating at all. They look wasted. Wasted meaning their muscles are like, they are losing muscle in their face, in their body, and they look gaunt. They look sick, right? Those are extreme scenarios. And we will talk about, why those scenarios happen. Now, something else I should mention is when it comes to where the origin of some of these medications date back to as far as 20 years ago. Yes. And these medications initially were being prescribed to people who had diabetes. Now, for some of us who, we have PCOS to the extent where our doctors have placed us on metformin, or we've been told our HbA1c is high, you kind of know how that with PCOS or PMOS, diabetes is not so far. It's literally knocking on the door. The pathophysiology is not that different. And so what's really happening, or what's been happening over the past couple of years, is that the scientific community is beginning to find newer applications for these medications. It's not that these medications are new per se. There are more improved formulations where it's like, okay, the side effects are less. And you know what? Guess what, you guys? This has been how every single medication you currently take has come to market. Every medication you take for malaria right now, there was a different formulation. I mean, I don't know if you remember days of chloroquine. For instance, I react poorly to chloroquine. It makes me itch. But now with malaria, I don't have to take chloroquine anymore. I can take something else that is better and has, fewer side effects. And so what's happened is that these are newer formulations of medications that have existed in different formats from as far back as 20 years ago that people have been taking for, diabetes and other related conditions like obesity, for instance, right? That was very, very important for me to explain. If you don't understand that and you have questions around it, you can let me know. And so let me now speak about how these medications have now evolved to being used in the weight loss scenario. I should have included this in my slides, just a little bit of talk about obesity. But I didn't want to skew this conversation because, maybe not everybody with PCOS presents as an obese person, but we're talking about weight loss, so maybe I should have. But allow me to just briefly talk about semaglutide. So clinical trials are usually done before you bring medications to the market. And when studies were done, we looked at two groups of women. This group of women are eating the same amount of food. So let's take group A and group B. Same amount of food, same amount of exercise between group A and group B. But the people who were on semaglutide lost about 15% of their body weight, compared to about 2% from the people that were not on semaglutide. 2%, 15%. So for you guys to understand what I'm saying, let's say someone is 100 kg. We take 20 people who are 100 kg. Group A, they only lost about 2 kg of their weight on the same regimen of diet and activity, diet and exercise. While group B, they lost about 15 kg, right? And the difference was the medication. It was semaglutide. And what was found was that the other group that lost more weight, their sensors were more sensitive. And so it helped them feel full faster, right? It helped them say, oh, I can stop eating now, more than they would have before. It helped them stop thinking about food every single time. Oh, I wake up, what am I going to eat this morning? What am I going to eat this afternoon? They could go about their day and just be normal, right? Without thinking about food all the time. There were also other, positive side effects of the medication, as well as some negative side effects, which I'll talk about. Now, The stronger formulation is tirzepatide. We call this a dual agonist. Dual means it acts on two pathways, the GLP and the GIP. I'm already getting to scientific, so I'm going to move off this slide in the next 2 minutes. With tirzepatide, the results we saw were higher than that for semaglutide. With tirzepatide, we saw up to 21% weight loss in the group of people who were on the medication. Now, again, same group of people, same diet, same exercise. This group is losing about 2%, 3%. So this group from 100 kg, they went down to like 97 kg. And the other group, same diet, same exercise, they went down to about 80 kg. Now, these are clinical trial averages, by the way. These are not promises of what you might see if you're on this medication, because again, it varies from person to person, all right? However, I said all of this to say that if you feel like you've struggled with your appetite, with satiety, with weight loss, you lose, you gain, you lose, it's such a struggle. Fasting, for instance, maybe you in your religious group, you are fasting for like 2-3 days. You are the one that will be like, 11 a.m. I have to wait, because your brain is always on thinking about food. Then maybe GLP might be right for you. But I will talk more about how to assess whether it might be right for you towards the end of the session. What I want to establish on this second point of the basics still matter is that it was not necessarily the medication alone that caused the weight loss, because for these trials, these women still had to eat within the caloric allotments that they had, and they still had to move, right? These trials was not established based off on, just take the medication and stay, because these days, you see people marketing stuff and they're like, this is a lazy way to lose weight. You don't need to do anything, just take the medication. No. Nutrition still matters, movement still matters. In fact, monitoring still matters, because if you are on medication, your doctor needs to be like checking certain things to be sure that, remember I spoke about the extreme where some people are now, they are not able to eat now, they are malnourished, they look gaunt, they look sick, or this medication starts to affect certain, other systems in their body. As you can imagine, with strong medications like this, side effects usually come to play. It happens if you have anybody here, or a parent or a relative who's been on hypertensive medication, diabetes medication, they will tell you about side effects, okay? And so essentially, I want you to remember that weight loss works better as a system. The fundamentals matter: nutrition, movement, but also monitoring, right? Especially if you are on medication. Someone needs to be asking, are you losing weight too quickly? Someone needs to be thinking, are you losing muscle? What should we do about that? Someone needs to be asking you, are you experiencing side effects, and adjusting your dose? Someone needs to be looking at your blood sugar. Was it abnormal when you started? Is it improving now? Someone needs to be looking at your cholesterol. Is it improving? Is it going higher? Is it going lower? And all of those things. Are you still eating adequately? Very important. Moving on to the next. So the mindset shift I've tried to address on this second point is, I need you to stop thinking about what's the quickest way to lose weight, but what approach can I sustain? What support do I need? Right? What are the things that I should do? And I should be able to keep doing them. One of the questions that we had sent in, or just from women we've spoken to so far, is, I hear that if I am on some of this medication, for instance, I will gain all the weight back. Again, that's what happens when you don't have a system in place, right? And you think that there is a magic tool. No, there is no magic tool. All right. This is my last one before I now talk about what you should start doing to see the results you want to see, or what you can do. You need to stop chasing just the number on the scale. Now, you guys, believe me, I think the number on the scale matters. As a fellow PCOS girly, I can tell you that the number does matter. But if you have a diagnosis of a health issue, think about it. You need to be thinking about the other markers, your blood markers. Blood markers now could be your lipid levels, that's cholesterol, your blood pressure, your blood sugar. Have you been having some worrisome symptoms? My knees hurt. When you're going up the stairs, your knees will they're sounding cr. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm not even 40 yet, I'm not 50 yet, what's going on? you need to actually also be thinking about your health. And so the number is important, because say you started, I'm going to use 100 kg because it's such a round number. You started at 100 kg, but now you're at 94 kg with your weight loss efforts. Kudos to you. That's really important. But are your health metrics getting better? Are you still going to be, are we still worried about diabetes, for instance? But I think there's also thinking about your dream weight. So for instance, you're 100 kg and your goal is to get to 75 kg, but now you're at 94. Is that success? Or is it until you get to 75 that you feel like, oh, I've done a thing, right? And so this mindset shift that I want to talk about is two-sided. It's, I will be successful when I reach my goal weight. But first of all, it's that even before you get to your goal weight, there are certain things, we call them in the weight loss world, we call it non-scale victories. There are other things that are just as important as you having that victory of seeing the scale move. Better health being a bigger one. But I think also remembering that even on your way to where you're going, you need to celebrate the small wins that you have, right? I know I've been mentioning blood markers, by the way, but sometimes some of the non-scale victories include your waist circumference. Yes, I know we are all about the snatch weight so that our Ashwebi can fit, but your waist circumference is also a marker of whether you have fat accumulating around your important organs, your liver, your kidneys, your, just all the important organs that you have there in your belly. And so, yeah, we want to see our waist circumference drop. Are we breathless when we, move up the stairs? You take 10 steps and you're already panting. Your reproductive outcomes as well. Is your period regularizing? Your quality of life? Do you feel more confident? I remember when I started adding like weight unexplained, and I would just, small thing, I just start to sweat. And I'm like, oh, no, I don't want to wear armless because I just sweat at every little thing. These things affect our confidence, they affect our mindset. All right. So the question you should be asking yourself is, what else is changing? I've already overflogged this point. I think I'm moving ahead of my slides, but I already mentioned all of these things: your weight, your blood sugar, your blood pressure, blood cholesterol, waist circumference, how fit you feel, your hormonal health, your cycle. You're trying to get pregnant. Are you getting pregnant as easily as you should? Right? And I know that this is a concern for a lot of women who are already seeking help when it comes to PCOS. So I'm here to just remind you that you don't have to reach your goal weight before your health starts benefiting. Now, very quick explanation that any good doctor will give you when they tell you to go, it's very annoying actually when you go to the doctor and they're like, oh yeah, lifestyle changes, but they don't really tell you what to do, which is why we're having this webinar, right? And I hope that some of the things I've said have been helpful, but something you should keep in mind when you're thinking about your goal weight is whatever your weight is at that point where you're having all these health issues, there are so many scientific studies to show that if you lose 5%, even though 10 is kind of the magic number, and I use the word magic carefully, there's no magic, the sweet spot. If you lose at least 5% of your body weight, you actually start to see significant improvements in those things that you complained about to your doctor. So what does that mean? If you're 100 kg today, 5% of 100 kg is 5 kg. If you drop from 100 to 95, chances are that you probably see that your cycle starts to behave itself just a teeny little bit if your cycles have disappeared for a while. And if anybody here has experienced it, you can I can raise my hand to testify to this one. Like whenever my weight loss efforts are successful, right, I start to actually see some of the things that I was worried about. My knees, it's better. My cycle is better. And so again, even though we have like our weight loss goal for aesthetics, you're like, I want to be, or maybe your BMI, the BMI calculator will always give you like the healthy range. Because you are like 160 centimeters, your goal weight for you to be healthy should be like 60 kg or 55 kg. I'm like, oh my God, what hope is there for me? From 100 to 50. Who will help me? 50 kg. No, wait, calm down first. I need you to remember that it's a journey, and your health starts to improve just with 5 to 10% improvement in your weight loss. This is very important for you to remember, okay? All right, moving on. So I think I just put this here to remind you of that, just to visualize it. We have the clinical milestones, which are just as important, if not more important. So when you do your lab results, and that's why, yes, it's okay if you're losing weight just by like, you're trying to lose weight, you're just eating food, or, you're doing your movements, your activity, you're going to the gym, exercising, whether at home or at the gym. But if you're going the extra step of now you're being put on medication to help you with weight loss, it's important that someone is tracking the things that are, I dare say, more important, because you want to know, is my HbA1c improving? HbA1c is a marker for your blood sugar, and it improves in like monthly, 3 monthly increments. What's 3 months? Quarterly increments. So you should check your HbA1c every quarter to see, is it improving? Are my symptoms improving? You should log these things to see. Oh, by the way, shout out to Fertitude, because Fertitude helps you log your symptoms, and you can actually, check your history to see how things are improving. But I digress. Your energy levels, are they improving? I think I've driven this point home, so I'm just going to move on. We get the point, right? So in a nutshell, mindset shifts number 3, and I think I'm nearing the close of what we've come here to talk about today, is going away from thinking, how many kilos have I lost, to how is my health changing as I lose weight? This is way more important. Yes, your weight may be going down, but other things may be going down and improving too. And so you need to be sure that you're tracking what really matters. So I hope I've done justice to this mindset shifts, because at the crux of what we have in our outline for today, these are literally the really important things that I want to drive home when it comes to how we think about weight loss. Is that first, you need to understand your body. What are your hormones saying? What's driving your weight gain? If you've been on this weight gain hill for the last 5 years, last 3 years, last maybe 1 year, we don't have to wait until it's 5 years, right? But you can tell that something, and that's why this last point, listen to your body's signals. I love to say our body is always speaking. The question is, are we listening? Now, if you are one of those women who is listening, you know that something is off. You know the point where something changed. You're like, my body started reacting very weirdly to XYZ. We need to ask ourselves, what could be the cause, right? And again, allow me to say, it's one of the really beautiful things about the name change with PCOS, PMOS, because it just explains a lot that we've been gaslit about for such a long time. So you need to be asking yourself, what could be the cause? You need to understand your body. Now, you could either be asking yourself this question, or you could be asking your doctor this question, and your doctor is helping you, and they're telling you, go run XYZ tests. And they're answering, okay, this could be what is driving your weight gain. All right. If you've not run, your fasting insulin, I guess I know that we do like fasting blood sugar, but your fasting insulin could also be a pointer to whether or not you have insulin resistance. This is something you should be interested in, and you should have a professional help you interpret what this could mean for you based off of how those labs match with your symptoms. Second thing I've addressed is our approach, right? Use the right tools, but the fundamentals matter. Nutrition, you cannot, anybody that tells you there's a lazy way to lose weight is lying to you, and they will get you in trouble. Allow me to, I said I was going to tell this story when I was on the GLP slide. Should I put my okay, I'll say a relative. A certain relative of mine, an older relative of mine, whenever they go to work, they have these people, because they work in the informal sector, who come to market like different types of herbal medicines to them. And I think this is a trap that a lot of our older relatives fall like trap to. They are not very discerning when it comes to like the ads they see on their phone, or when people approach them to recommend. Even us women, we're also guilty. Even younger women, we're buying all the supplements on the market. And you know what? This particular relative has been doing this thing. Everything someone prescribes you, they will bring it to the house and use it until one day they landed in the hospital. They started to feel dizzy, and this was not like normal dizziness. And then their blood pressure literally went up to as high as like 170 something. It was crazy. Everybody was now running helter skelter. What happened? They showed us what someone marketed to them that they used. Now everybody is angry because we're like, we did not send you a message to go and be taking everything that every Tom, Dick, and Harry prescribes to you. Now you've landed in the hospital and everybody's worried. And now you're having to spend millions because you had to go do MRI scan because now they were worried about like fluid leaking into your brain. Yeah. See, you guys, be very, very careful. There is no shortcut when it comes to weight loss. Be very careful about what you put into your body, right? The fundamentals still matter when it comes to weight loss. And so anybody that tries to sell you a shortcut, they will land you in trouble and you end up spending more money trying to reverse the damage that has been done to your body. Hopefully not. That's not like a curse, right? We reject it and all the good stuff. But it's a warning that is very important. Guess what? Some of these damages are incremental. You would think that, oh, it's not doing anything to your body now until because your liver has been complaining. Then one day, liver will now say, I'm not doing again. But it's the damage of all the things that you have been taking for the last 3 years that your liver has now decided to, God forbid, liver will not pack up. So please, let's just remember. And that's why I had to explain this. Finally, outcome. Anybody who is not sitting with you to really talk about your expectations and how to think about your outcomes might not exactly be holistic in their approach of dealing with you. And you probably want to challenge them and ask them these questions, right? So you're on this journey. What is your goal? What are some of the milestones on the way to getting to that goal that you want to look out for? Celebrate those wins because they're also important, right? Weight loss is a journey. Your health is the destination. Well, I mean, your health is kind of like you have those smaller milestones actually on the way to the destination. So all in all, I've said all of that to say, and I think I'm nearing, it's been what now? I think we started at 6:10, 6:15. So I'm doing well with time. I should be able to wrap this up in another 15 minutes for Q&A. So if you have your questions, you can start putting them in the chat or you write them down and we can take the questions after. What does doing weight loss well actually look like? We had mentioned in the webinar outline that we're going to talk about calories. So I'm going to just speak very quickly about how we help women lose weight using the calories method. 4 simple steps. By the way, for context, calories it's calories by Fertitude. And I already introduced myself. I'm a medical doctor, but I also lead the team at Fertitude with doctors and, a team of people who specialize in all the various things, women's health, right? From hormones, so endocrinology, to diet, nutrition, dietitians, to fitness, right? But to all the other things, physiotherapy, not all of these things are weight loss related. However, right now I'm speaking about calories, which is a program that we put out to help women lose weight who might be struggling with metabolic or hormonal causes. So this would be a woman who, for instance, a woman with PMOS, or maybe a woman who is perimenopausal or she's menopausal and her hormones are just like really getting in the way. Of course, not every perimenopausal woman or menopausal woman has this issue. Please, I just so that we put the things I'm saying into context, right? But there are this subset of women who have these struggles that I've described, throughout my presentation. And so we, in 4 simple steps, we assess them. Like I said, first, someone should be looking at your blood work. It starts with your blood work. Nobody should be putting you on certain regimens if they've not taken a look at your blood work. That is the biggest blunder. Actually, let me just move because I'm already moving ahead of my slides. I was saying it's the biggest blunder. It's for 2 reasons. Number 1, knowing your baseline blood work is important so that you know when improvements are happening. However, the more important issue, especially when you are being put on medication, is to know whether the medication you are given is appropriate for you or not. For instance, some weight loss medications are contraindicated. By contraindicated, they should not be given to people who have certain health issues. If someone has maybe health history of maybe there's some types of cancer in the family, for instance, they should not be on certain medication. And that's just me trying to give an extreme example. But there are certain other health conditions, time will fail me to talk about all of them, where you should not be on certain medication. And so the initial assessment where a doctor is taking your health history, but also looking at your blood work now here being your lab results, will let them know, oh, you can't be on this medication. This is the one you should be on instead. Or you can't be on any medication at all. So for you, we're going to sit down with you and actually be a lot more strict in how we measure the diet approach. Or For people who can be on certain medication, this is now where some stricter diet regimens come in. And usually those diet regimens are not like forever. It's for a set period of time, and then they wean them off to, other types of diet regimen. I think that's explanatory enough. Next, and I already preempted myself, assess, then personalize. So nobody can personalize anything for you. They don't know your story. I cannot say this is what is right for you if I don't know where you're coming from. It's simple. This one is simple logic. I cannot be giving generic advice when I don't know what is exactly wrong with you. And this applies in the health nuance as well. Right? Okay, I can see a question is dropping. Great. We'll address, I'm almost done, so we'll start taking questions very shortly. And then the next is treat. Like I said, treatment is not always, you need medication, because it's not everybody that needs medication. For some people, right, and I addressed these women at the start of the webinar, some people are like, I tried everything, but I'm not losing weight. But when they now ask you to actually track, you've not actually been in a calorie deficit. You don't need medication. You just need better tracking. Simple. And for some women, that's all. They just need to track better. But for some women, when they've done all, and it's like someone has actually held your hand to do X, Y, and Z, and those things are still not working, or you're struggling more than you should, then we start looking at whether or not medication might be right for you. There's also the concern of, how badly is this affecting your life? Because like we said, some people start to have issues with their knees. Some people start to have issues with their general health, with their general wellness. Your cycle is being affected. Some people, you've been asked to lose weight because you're trying to get pregnant. Maybe you need to go, you need to do a procedure. You need to you start your IVF, but your doctors are not going to let you start IVF because your BMI is too high. And now they've asked you to go lose weight. But now it's taking you years. And you're like, something has to give, right? So these are all of the things that we look at to determine what treatment or what regimen you're put on. And ongoing support is typically important, right? Because you need to see, if you're on any medication where you cannot eat, don't be happy. I've seen this all over the internet. People are like, yes, it's working. I tried to eat, I could not eat. I was nauseous. And so that nausea was good because it meant I could not eat. And so I lost like 7 kg in 1 week. Please and please and please. Gallbladder stones is no joke. When you're not giving your body certain nutrients to allow it let go of the things you should let go of. And you, again, if you don't do things right, you end up spending a lot more money in the hospital because you're having to treat something that you did not start with. And finally, adapt. So I'm not trying to scare us, by the way. If it sounds that way, I'm just trying to give a very stern warning. Okay, I'm realizing I'm probably sounding very harsh. Your plan should change as your body does. And I think this is what I just said. Again, I preempted my slide. If you react certain way to your medication, that's the point for your doctor to be like, we need to reduce your dose. Or, you can stay on this dose. Let's watch you for the next 1 week. So these are some of the things and this is the reason why we build calories, essentially. So I already explained what calories is. It's a doctor-led weight and metabolic healthcare program that is designed for women. And this is important because I think women were a peculiar bunch. Again, when women have like certain health conditions, again, it's a peculiar situation. So we have built this program in mind specifically for a certain group of women who have PMOS. I already gave other examples of, some of the other conditions that hormones or our metabolism is sort of playing with us. And so how it works essentially is, first we take your assessment. This is a doctor actually sits with you to take your history. You have to fill out a form first, and then the doctor takes your history, tries to understand certain things. Then we run your labs, and then we form a personalized plan. Your personalized plan will determine the people that we bring on board. As a standard part of calories program, there's always going to be a dietitian on call working with you. You have, monthly sessions with dietitian. However, there's a customized meal plan where they're asking what you like to eat, what you don't like to eat, and they tailor. The measurement I was saying about calculating your TDEE. What should your caloric intake be per day, per week, or whatever? They tailor your meal plan based on that. So this is not a group. I mean, you might be doing this program alongside other women for ginger, right? However, whatever you're being asked to eat is based off of your own history in particular. It's tailored to you, not a group of people, right? And then treatment as well. So you need to be on like GLPs. For women with PMOS, tirzepatide, which is the dual agonist. I think I explained that. For those of us who might be joining late, you can check the recording, or you can just actually read up about what tirzepatide is. This is it has the strongest indication for women with PMOS in a nutshell, right? And then ongoing support, because you need someone, so literally a doctor on standby every single day if you have questions. And there will be weekly check-ins, weekly weigh-ins, and just all the support that you need from the medical standpoint, but also from the nutrition standpoint and the activity standpoint. I should also mention that with calories, if a woman also needs to see an endocrinologist, so that's a hormones doctor, that's something that we can give at an add-on discount. If you need to see, and we have a doctor as a standard part of this program. However, for some women, the issues with their blood work might be like so specialized, where it's like, now we need you to talk to a specialist. So that's equally available. Or you need someone who's a fitness trainer who is able to like maybe advise on certain things to do or not do. That's also available as an add-on. So what your next step should be, and this is, I think I have 4 more slides, so we literally come to the end, is we have an assessment. You just need to get on a call with a doctor who is going to ask you the necessary questions. So do an in-depth review of your health. Talk about your goals, right? Remember we spoke about your goals being important. So we're looking at what's your weight now? What is your BMI, right? How much weight do we think if you lose, you might start to see like certain improvements? We would also ask you what's your own, maybe your aesthetic weight loss goal, and help you try to find a middle ground to also see like what a long-term plan would look like for you. The way I need to clarify that this call is not free. This call, okay, so there's a link that has just dropped in the chat. Thank you, Victoria. We have an exclusive offer for the women of the PCOS Conquerors community, or PMOS Conquerors community, to get this initial assessment. We typically take this call at 50,000 naira to get you in. But for people who are joining this webinar, you can get a discount. When you speak to our calorie specialist, who is a medical doctor, and they assess that you are eligible for the calories program, because the calories program, at least the cohort of it that we're currently running, is for women who need medication, right? The amount that you need to pay for the program, we deduct this consultation fee for. So technically, if you've decided and you can already determine from everything that they said that this medication, I'm going to need it, you actually end up getting this money back if you decide to join the program, or if we determine that you're eligible for the program. So we've sort of made it easy for you to take this first step, which is take the assessment, get on a call with a doctor who is qualified to understand your body, your goals, in the context of everything we've discussed. And that's it. So what happens during your assessment is what I've already said. We understand where you are. We're asking you questions. We determine what you need, and we map out your next steps. Typically on that call, that's when the doctor determines what labs you need to run as well. So there might need to be a follow-up call. And that depends on whether you already have these test results or not. If we determine that you are eligible for the calories program, we would need to still do some baseline, because we want to know that your liver is okay, your kidneys are okay, and some of those other things, to be sure that your body will not react adversely to whatever medication you're put on. So I've come to the end of this session. So yeah, I can see Sheyi is on. So let me let Sheyi kind of pour water, and let me also take a sip of water on everything I've said before we move into Q&A.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Kieva. Thank you so much, Dr. Kieva, for this session. Very informative. I'm looking forward to hearing back from the community, and quite frankly, it was really good presentation. And as someone like with myself personally, I understand everything that you said, because one of the things I noticed just trying to get my body back, and we'll get to answering the question someone has posted. And if you have more questions, please post in the group, or if you want to unmute, just raise your hand and we can discuss as well. But yeah, part of dealing with just weight gain and just the issues with my metabolism was that I noticed was that I used to get like really, really round face. In fact, my face is it's probably still round, but it's better. And then we found out it has a name, it's called moon face. And it has to do with insulin. And I didn't know that. I just thought, but then I noticed when, like you said, it's just a case of sometimes if you change a few things and you keep to that, you see those changes. But then is the accountability. And I think recently just listening to like why like a dietitian or why you need a team, because again, just reiterating some of the conversations that we've had around GLP-1s is and what we see online in terms of people using it without being guided, and next thing they what do you call it, Ozempic face, or where everything then looks really, really dried out. So conversations like this are very necessary, rather than demonize something. For women that need this extra help, it goes, a long way. So thank you for that session. And let me get to a question in the group. So Malara had asked about, if stress contributes. I mean, I'll also let doctor talk about it. But yes, to answer your question, so she asked, she'd like to know if stress contributes to weight gain. I'm asking because I have 30. I guess I've been 85 kg for almost a year now, and despite trying to check my nutrition and workouts, it remains the same even though I'm trying to lose weight. However, I've been stressed for almost 2 months now, and I'm now 88 kg despite not eating anything unusual. So, Dr. Kieva, would you like to just answer that?
Yeah, yes. I smiled when I read your question, Omolara, because you is me, me is you. I can relate genuinely. So let me answer your question sentence by sentence. Does stress contribute to weight gain? Yes, it can. But here's what's funny. Some people are stressed and then they lose weight. So you're like, why is my own different? Right? So the answer is that it can. Is that what is causing your weight gain or the unexplained weight gain? Possibly. Maybe not. Again, it's hard to say from, across the internet, unless we take a deeper look into certain things. Is your cortisol actually raised? Or could there be even something else going on? It's possible. But the simple answer is yes, stress can contribute to weight gain. You're asking because you've been 85 kg for almost a year now, and despite trying to check your nutrition and workout, well, I would be curious to know what exactly have you done? How have you been keeping track? Because like I said, sometimes we immediately assume that there is a metabolic issue, but our approach to trying to lose weight has been wrong. And we've not been tracking things properly. We've not had the proper, hand holding, like in terms of how we were approaching the nutrition or how we were approaching the workouts. Some people go to workout and then they overstress themselves. Now you have more inflammation and now you're gaining weight instead of losing weight. So it's that even when you say you've been checking your nutrition and your workout, I would ask you, or rightly, anybody who is working with you to really troubleshoot should be asking, what exactly have you done? To know whether maybe it's even what you're doing. Maybe it's the diet that you went to do that now has stressed your body and now your hormones are out of whack. Maybe, right? But Omalara, genuinely, as someone who is a medical professional, I can tell you that I can relate with doing everything right. Like where I was treating myself to say, I know that I have done everything right. Why am I gaining weight? Or why is the scale not moving? So that can happen too. See, there are so many probabilities, and I'm not trying to confuse you. I'm just trying to let you know that yes, possibly the answer to your question is yes, it can. That's a possibility. You've been stressed for almost 2 months now, and now you're 88 kg despite not eating anything unusual. So there is a whole pathway with how cortisol is kind of like, what do we call cortisol now? Cortisol is like the mother-in-law in your marriage that can whisper into the ear of the head of the family, where everything can be well, but if mother-in-law is not happy, everything can just go left. That's kind of how I can explain it in a funny way. So sometimes nothing is wrong, but cortisol is raised, and cortisol just causes everything to go out of whack. So yes, stress can cause you to gain weight. Is that what's causing you to gain weight? I'm not sure. And won't know until we actually speak to you to do a more detailed assessment, if that helps.
Just before you go into the common questions, and it might be part of your common questions, it just has to do more with, because you mentioned, if I didn't pronounce it well, forgive me, triazepatide being one of the compounds that are usually used. I guess my curiosity would be more, how does a program like that look like? I mean, I have a thing with injecting myself. So, but then I know ultimately it might be helpful. So I guess in my mind, I'm just saying, okay, if we say, okay, I'm working, and I'm guessing with assessment will be clearer, but I'm just wondering if you can just give some light. If we start on a program, how does results look like? How then are we able to keep, is this something that we are then on for life? That kind of thing, or yes.
Because it's one of the, so two of the biggest fears that people have when we tell you, okay, so you're eligible for this program, but people are like, injection, right? And that's like a scary thing. But the other fear people usually have is also the cost. So I'll talk about the cost second. But talking about the injection, we how do I say this now? We make this super easy for you. We have the option where you can self-inject. So on the care coordinator, or let's just say the care guide, for lack of a better word, that has been assigned to you would literally get on the call with you to talk you through how to, administer the medication. It's super painless. And yes, everybody gets that anxiety at first. But once they take the first, like, oh yeah, you didn't lie. It's actually these injections come in something we call a subcutaneous needle. So it's a needle that only injects the fats just directly under your skin, and it doesn't go very far, and it's actually very thin and very painless. However, for people who are like, you know what, I don't want to do that option, we can assign a home nurse to come to you to administer this medication, but that would come at an extra cost if you want a home nurse to come to you. So when you speak to the doctor, you can have that conversation and we determine what approach works better for you. But I can let you know that the feedback we've had so far is, oh, you didn't lie. It actually is not as bad. But I know Sheyi has also mentioned, like, oh yeah, like, Kieva, I'm a very squeamish person, and I know people who are very squeamish. So yeah, if you think you're that squeamish and you rather, I feel like as Nigerians, we just like always like the hand holding. We get help for everything. So yes, we can assign a home nurse to you. I hope I've done justice to the question of the fear of injections. I should also mention that right now, because the GLP space is evolving, and like I said, there are better formulations that are coming on the market. There are tablet forms of GLPs. However, I'll be very honest with you guys. The efficacy means, I think we know what efficacy means, like how well this medication works, is not, at least for the set of women we've worked with, it's not enough to justify the cost that you pay for this. Like at the end of the day, if you're going to spend this amount of money, you want to know that you are actually, it's similar to when you go to the hospital, and it's slightly different, but it's similar to when they tell you, oh, we will give you injections so it works, faster, as opposed to you taking the paracetamol oral. Slightly different cases, but I'm just trying to use that as an explainer. The other fear that we have people talk about is the cost. So we'll have that we're actually very, 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 for calories, because we're thinking about the women, we're thinking about your health holistically. And we're not just thinking about getting money out of you like today and then going away tomorrow. We're not a stranger. We're literally Fertitude. We're here to stay. We have other women health offerings that we hope you explore throughout your reproductive health cycle. So we're really thinking about you for the long term. And so what that means is that we're also thinking about adherence. What does that mean? If we put you on medication and we've not considered whether you can actually afford that medication for as long as you need to be on it, chances are you won't stay on it, and now the medication was a waste of time. Let me re-explain that. So for GLPs, if you have to explore medically assisted weight loss, you need to be on it if I want to be very honest with you, I would say ideally at least 6 months. However, if you're like, Kieva, me, I have coconut head and I can make it happen, I can do all things by faith, at least 3 months. So now it means that if you're going to be on this medication, you need to be thinking about, what can I actually afford for at least 3 months? That's the truth. If you think that your case is different, well, speak to our doctors and you can actually go back and forth with them with your very specific, or you can ask in the chat about specific questions. So we always try to look at how much do you think you can afford for this period of time, so that we are able to recommend what works best for you, or we don't even get you started on something that isn't sustainable. If you're like, Kieva, thank you for telling me upfront and not wasting my time. I can't afford this amount, but I actually need the help because I think my hormones are literally getting in the way of me being able to do X, Y, Z. You should still talk to us, right? Because we might be able to point you in the right direction or be able to help you troubleshoot why whatever you're doing is not working or something that may not require medication that you might be able to explore. So still come talk to us either way, right? A common question we've had is, do I have to take GLP-1 to join calories? Right now, the way we designed the program is, well, we're working with women who require medication. But like I've said, you still need to talk to, our health professionals if you suspect that something is wrong. And it's not just a case of, oh, go and lose weight, go and take a walk every day. How do you know if you're eligible? Come talk to us. So on the link I shared, there is actually a quiz there, but I'm not even sure if the quiz is active. However, if you book the call to come talk to us, you will get the link to fill out a form where we get to ask you all the questions to assess your eligibility. We're looking at things that, how much have you struggled in the past? What's your current BMI? What's your medical history? What's your family's medical history? Right? What medications are you currently on? What have you been allergic to in the past? What are your reproductive health goals? Are you currently pregnant or breastfeeding? Are you trying to conceive? Because some medication you should not take when you are pregnant or actively trying to conceive. So we would need to consider that into what your treatment plan looks like. We've also had people ask us about whether or not they will have saggy skin on this program. And the answer to this is no, not on our program. However, if you do not get proper support when you are on some of this medication, you might have, you're losing muscle when you shouldn't. So we kind of guide you on, strength training is very, very important if you're on GLP-1s, and we kind of guide you on how that should work to ensure that you're preserving your muscle, you're also losing weight at a reasonable pace, and you're not losing, extreme, you're not starving, essentially. What side effects should I expect? Is another common question we get. Very common ones: nausea, diarrhea. So abdominal, gastrointestinal means your digestive system. So the most common side effects are with your digestive system: nausea, diarrhea, vomiting, constipation, abdominal symptoms. However, I'm mentioning this so that because we have an ethical obligation to you to give you full disclosure. This does not mean that you will have this side effect. In fact, there are some testimonials on the page where you see, like, some of the women we've worked with talk about how much side effects they've had. You actually don't have anything to worry about if you have someone working with you and guiding you. Because the moment there is a hint of a side effect that is worrisome, they usually let you know whether you need to taper down your dose, whether you need to hydrate properly, and now we need to start tracking how much water are you taking, or whether we need to prescribe some medication to help with the side effect that you're having. So I think these are some of the common questions that we have. How long will I need treatment? Another common one. I think I've already addressed that. It differs per person. It differs based off of your goal. And so yeah, that's that. Shay, I'm going to hand over my mic to you if there's no other question in the chat.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kieva, and also thanks, Vanilla, for that great question as well. I think since we don't have any other questions in the group, we would unless, let me just leave around. Okay, I believe we're fine. Most of all the questions have been answered, and then if we have any more questions, we can always drop it on the WhatsApp group for those of us on WhatsApp. Since you've also registered, we can also get more information. The link to the page is on in the chat. And yeah, it's been such an informative session. Like, I'm like, okay, wow. Like, I mean, for me, I've already been considering. So that's why I thought, okay, yes, let's, instead of asking these questions on my own, let's bring everyone together. So without further ado, I'd like to bring this webinar to a close. And just thank you all for joining. Thank you for joining and taking our time. And the recording would be made available, so you can also share with your friends and also take this information that and share with people as well, so that anybody that that is self-medicating without working with a doctor, please stress on how it's very important to have it medically guided. I know during the week as well, when we're discussing on the group, someone also mentioned that was also critical for our own experience. So yeah, so Thank you very much, everyone, and have a lovely night
Thank you,
and a week
everyone.
and